Hello, this is Chuck Ridgway, Automation Technology Manager at Horner. Thanks for joining us for another Tuesday live stream. We've got another great topic for you today. Here it is. Using a USB camera with Canvas. Now, in case you haven't noticed, I'm looking a little bit different today with my Open. Instead of using my normal camera, I'm actually using a USB camera plugged into a Canvas all-in-one controller from Horner. Now, this is not how you would normally use a setup like this for filming a talking head. However, there are some great industrial applications, and we're going to explore that today. All right, without further ado, let's get cracking. Okay, we'll get started with a quick review of the Canvas all-in-one controller from Horner, so you can get acclimated on what that product has to offer. And then we're going to zero in on Canvas's video capabilities, including the Cscape 10 Canvas video object, and we'll have plenty of demonstrations. All right, here we go. So what is Canvas? So Canvas is really, today, the top-of-the-line Horner all-in-one controllers. All-in-one controllers are basically PLCs with a built-in HMI, and the Horner OCS products offer control with built-in display, lots of networking, and plenty of either built-in or remote I/O for your application. Now, Horner has several different product lines when it comes to all-in-one controllers, and Canvas offers three primary differentiators. First of all, it has an advanced graphics engine. Okay, so it does much more advanced graphics than any of our other products. It features a dual-core microprocessor. That means you have a microprocessor core that's dedicated for logic and networking, and another one that's dedicated for graphics. So no matter what you have going on the screen, you're going to have really fast control with your application, because let's face it, control is what it's all about. Also, Canvas includes several protocols built in that either aren't available on other product lines or are available only at an extra cost for an upgrade. With Canvas, those are built right in, including some IIoT functionality as standard. Okay, so that's a quick overview of Canvas in general. Now, one of the big advantages that I mentioned on that last slide is the enhanced graphics that Canvas has to offer. So that means even simple objects like switches, buttons, and gauges are definitely enhanced and have a newer, more modern look to them. You can be more creative with your backgrounds using graphics and patterns and images. Also, there are plenty of completely redesigned graphics objects that are only available on Canvas, and that includes the trend object, where you can have up to 16 pens on a single trend if you choose, and the ability to turn individual pens on and off on the fly so that you don't clutter up your view if you want to hone in on a specific trend line. Also, in addition to trends, there's an all-new XY graphics object, all-new alarming capability. The recipe object has also been designed from the ground up, and there's also a video object, which is going to be one of the things we talk about the most today. Now, getting to that video object, there's a couple different things you can do with it. Now, one thing you can do with the video object is you can play back pre-recorded video files. Now, we're not going to spend a lot of time on that today by demonstrating it or anything like that, but I at least wanted to mention it because the video object that we're going to use for camera display is also the same object you would use for playing videos. Now, why would you ever want to play a video on a machine controller? Well, videos can be ideal as help files for operators. So you want to show the operator how to load a part. You want to show a maintenance person how to do maintenance on the machine, change a filter, something like that. Well, you now have the capability of displaying and playing those help videos right from the front of the OCS screen. Very cool. Now, when you do that, you're going to be presenting video files without audio. So you'll just have some subtitles or some sort of graphics on the screen to explain everything. And that actually makes a lot of sense because in a lot of industrial environments or even other environments, you're not going to have a quiet area to hear sound. Effectively, you're going to want to just see what's going on so that regardless of the ambient noise, you can get the message across to your operator. Now, the new Canvas video object includes video control. So you can pause the video, you can restart it from the beginning, you can zoom it to full screen, you can put it in repeat mode if you want. So there's a whole lot of things you can do with the built-in controls with the Canvas video object. But we're not here today necessarily to talk about using Canvas to play help videos. We're here today to talk about connecting a camera, a USB camera specifically, to Canvas so that you can do some things like show the operator live video, maybe from a hidden or dangerous area of the machine. So an area that they can't see directly, an area that isn't safe to go into to look at. Now they can basically take a look at what's happening right there from their operator station. So if they want to double check that a part is nested or that a machine is in the home position, other than sensors and things, they can get a visual validation of that specific machine state. So it can be really useful. And when you're displaying video on the front of the Canvas unit, you can choose to display that video in a small window on the screen. So maybe it's up there along with other operators, push buttons and graphs and meters and things. Or the operator can choose to hit a button and to view everything full screen. So the operator has some options when it comes to taking a look at the video. Now, what USB cameras or what cameras would you be using in this sort of setup? Well, you're going to want to include a camera, which includes a USB port, and through that USB port supports the UVC video standard. So what is the UVC video standard? Well, it's the same standard that's used on webcams when you connect an external webcam to your computer. All right, so there are plenty of cameras available that support that standard, and you can find them packaged for industrial type applications with removable lenses and those sorts of things. So they're definitely available on the market. Now, how will you connect that camera to a Canvas OCS? Well, you need to connect it through the USB port, the full-sized USB-A port that's available on all Canvas units, and it could be directly connected there, or it could be connected through a hub. Now, one other thing I will mention, and that is this. When you're connecting a USB camera to Canvas, with strictly using a USB cable, you're limited, I believe, to about 15 feet of distance. Now, there are USB extension cables available that can expand that distance, so that's the sort of accessory you would need to use if you're going to mount your camera further than, say, 15 feet away from the Horner Canvas OCS. And in your application, at least today, you're going to be limited to a single camera connected to the Canvas. In the future, we'll support multiple cameras, and in those scenarios in the future, of course, you will need to use a USB hub to connect more than one camera. But again, today, Canvas strictly supports one camera. Okay, now, how do you actually set that up in Cscape? And remember, Cscape is the all-in-one programming software for the all-in-one Horner controllers. Well, in Cscape 10, which is the latest version that you would use with Canvas, you're going to select a video object from the project toolbox while you're editing a screen. And it's found in the Live Graphic Data toolbox group. So you're going to select the video object, you're going to size it to the size, approximate size that you want, and then you're going to double click on that video object to configure it. Now, when you configure it, there's a few different things you're going to need to configure. First of all, you're going to need to select whether you want to stream through this video window or to play back. Now, if we're displaying live video through a USB camera, we want to stream. Playback is strictly used for playing back, say, MP4 video files for help purposes, for instance. You're also going to need to select channel 1, and that's because today, Canvas strictly supports one camera, and it's going to come in through channel 1. Next, you need to assign a trigger bit as well as a status variable, okay? So the start camera is what I've done on the screen here. You can see I've created a start camera variable. Now, it's actually an integer type variable. We're just going to use the lower bit of that variable to actually enable video, for instance. So you could use the always on bit in that scenario. And then the status word or the status variable is another integer that you're going to monitor that will tell you, everything's working properly. Now, frankly, those status bits and trigger bits have more meaning when you're playing back help videos than they do when you're just using a live camera all the time. So more than likely, those aren't really that critical in the application, but you want to assign those anyway. Okay, in step 3, you're going to want to select the aspect ratio for the video that you want to display. Is it a 16:9 aspect ratio, what we traditionally call widescreen, or is it kind of the old school 4:3 aspect ratio? Now, I would guess most cameras these days are probably in a 16:9 aspect ratio, but that would be something you should check on the camera spec sheet. Okay, let's go through some details on the trigger bit as well as the status variable. Now, as I mentioned, really, these particular variables have much more meaning when you're talking about playing MP4 help videos. For cameras, they don't have as much importance, but let's go ahead and go through them anyway. So the trigger bit, okay, is the first bit of the trigger variable, okay? And when that's turned on, it's going to allow live video to be happening, okay? And then the status variable, there's really only 2 bits when it comes to live video that we need to even look at. The first bit, which tells us that live video is playing, and the 7th bit, which tells us if there's a frame rate compatibility error. So that would be something you would only get if you've selected a camera which for whatever reason isn't set to a frame rate which is going to work with Canvas. And in most cameras, you're not going to have an issue with that. But in case you did, that bit would turn on in the status variable. Let's go and start our demonstration next. Okay, here we are in Cscape 10. I have a Canvas 10D selected as my controller of choice for this demo. Okay, Canvas 10D. All right. I've got a screen created, which I've just named camera. It's screen number 1. I've got a background pattern here, okay, that I've placed on the background of this particular screen. And in the foreground, I have a video object. And where did I find that video object? Well, I basically found it under Live Graphics Data here in the project toolbox while I'm editing a screen under video. Okay, so I clicked on that, place it on the screen, and then I can size it pretty much however I want, depending on, the aspect ratio I've chosen and those sorts of things. Now, you can't have it full screen by default. It can only take up a portion of the screen by default. But remember, at runtime, the operator has the ability to hit a button and bring it to full screen. All right, let's double click on this object and take a look at the configuration here. Okay, so I've got the video object set to stream. That means I'm going to connect it to a camera, and it needs to be set to channel number 1 because that's all the Canvas currently supports. So just leave that at 1. All right, you need to assign a camera trigger bit, okay, which is actually an integer variable. We're just going to be turning on the first bit of that integer and leaving the rest of them alone from the standpoint of live video. If we were showing help files, we could do other things with those bits in that word. On the status side of things, we've assigned a status word, and really it's just about only the lower bit and the 7th bit really have any meaning. We've talked about those in the slides, and then this is where we select our aspect ratio, and that's really all I'm going to do in this particular case. So let's take a look at one thing I want to show you, and that is when you size it, you do have some options when you size it for what size you want. Now Cscape will automatically make some adjustments depending on how big you want it. It does lock it into a particular aspect ratio, but you do have some choices of selecting different sizes. And obviously, if it's displayed in a relatively small window on the screen, or even if it's displayed in a somewhat larger window, you've got plenty of room around it for other objects if they need to be there, push buttons or meters or whatever the case may be. Okay, but I'm going to go ahead and drag it back out to more or less the biggest size that it will allow, okay, which is about here. Okay, and remember, this is a Canvas 10D, so this is a 10.1 inch diagonal screen. Okay, so that's really all there is to the configuration. Create the screen, select the object, place it on the screen, double click, set up those, a few parameters, and really you're good to go. Let's take a look at it on the bench. Okay, so this is what it looks like if you've left the trigger bit on all the time. Now, as you can see here, my video object actually takes up most of the screen, although not all of it. If I want to zoom in, well, the operator has the ability to press the screen and press the expand control, and as you can see, it goes to full screen. All right, and then if you want to go back to the normal view, you can do that as well. Okay, so obviously I don't have a real fancy shot here with this camera, but I'm just kind of showing you what it looks like on the bench. Okay, that does it for our demonstration and also does it for our topic for today. This is where I remind you that we're here just about every Tuesday at 2 o'clock with either a totally live video or a pre-recorded one. But in either case, we always have people standing by to answer your questions if you watch live. And if you watch our replays, just give us those comments and questions in the comment section and we'll get those answered just as soon as we can. Don't forget to sign up for our 2025 Horner training classes. People love our factory training courses. They're inexpensive and they're a really great experience. Check those out today and plan for 2025. There's lots of ways to interact with Horner Automation online, whether that's on our website at hornerautomation.com, on our YouTube channel, as I mentioned previously, or on LinkedIn. Okay, next week, another great topic. We're going to talk about getting started with Cscape 10 and the micro OCS. So this is kind of a go back to basics type topic where we get into Cscape 10 and help you get started, especially those folks just getting started with the entry-level micro OCS, which is a great choice for a lot of simple machines. If you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, don't hesitate to do so. It doesn't cost anything. And if you choose notifications when you subscribe, you'll be notified every time we go live or every time we post a new video. Okay, so until next week when we talk micro OCS and Cscape 10, let's get out there and do some good.